for illustrations and pictures in a book. And it was just kind of fun. I went through Amazon, Kindle Direct publishing, and it's, you know, if you have the skills to put together a newsletter, you can use other software, publishing software, which is very similar to PowerPoint, which I use for the newsletter, and just make a book. And but you do have to have some skills. Otherwise, I guess you could pay somebody, but I'm too cheap to do that. It's just a total one-person operation. And so they're called Fuzzy Village. But I don't want to spend the whole break promoting myself. So I'm just happy to be here. We have
It looks like I don't think Sylvia's back quite yet, but perhaps we should get started again. And so again, if you could mute yourself, and I'll start introducing our wonderful Jean Hess.
You can talk.
I'm just kind of stalling a little. Hopefully we can get Suzanne and there's Sylvia and Carol back, and oh well, because I'm going to abbreviate the introduction a bit, but it's truly a pleasure to introduce our own program chair, Jean Hess, who's done a stellar job of finding speakers for us. She's very well known in the collage community, but has stayed in the background doing her work for us. Now at last, we have a chance to see her own art. I hope I don't take too much of her time telling you of her many accomplishments, which I will abbreviate because they do go on and on and on. She studied at Maryland Institute of Art, University of Maryland, and University of New Mexico, with a BA in Art and Anthropology from University of New Mexico, followed by an MA and further field work in cultural anthropology at UNM, which led to community development projects and research for US government and major corporations. Her mixed media collage paintings are in numerous private and public collections, including a number of museums, Huntsville Museum of Art, Knoxville Museum of Art, Evansville Museum of Art, Science, and History. She was given a solo show at the Huntsville Museum of Art with an award-winning catalog accompanying the exhibition. Her work was featured with that of two other artists in the Knoxville Museum of Art's annual Contemporary Focus Series in early 2014. She's had numerous solo shows all over the place. And more recently, she's showcased in 4 spring exhibitions: Healing Power of Hope at Virginia Tech, Building Reflections, Contemplations, and Collage at Hallenwald Fine Arts Center, Cutting Edge Art of Collage at, and I love this, the Pink Dog Creative Gallery in Asheville. So enough of her accomplishments. I only touched the surface, but now to our very own collage star, Jean Hess. And I will share my screen so that you can see. Whoops. Cancel. Hit a wrong button. And let me spotlight our speaker. And hopefully you can all see my screen now. Jean?
Hi, I don't see any images.
You can't see the images?
You don't want to look at me.
Okay, you're not seeing those images.
No.
We are. I'm
Are you
sorry.
seeing it?
Yeah, I am.
I know. I need to see it to know what to say. How do I
Can you go into gallery view perhaps?
Okay.
Gallery view. No, it's not coming up here.
Okay, let me stop sharing.
I'm
and-
sorry, I really can't do it without
I know.
visual.
We can all see it.
Yeah, I
Well,
found out, let me.
I don't know what to do. I can start talking I mean, this
Okay,
is a
you have-
collage, you know? What the heck? I'll just start talking. You can,
Okay, let's try it once
I
again.
don't know what else to do. I have no control over it at this end.
See if maybe you can see it now.
There it is. Okay. All
Oh,
right.
wonderful.
Here we go, folks. We're going to be in a real hurry here. I just want to start by saying, I know that all of you, like me, look at work that you've done and you wonder where it came from. It's sort of like a miracle. And what happened here? Did I do that? Next slide. So
Okay. Here, let me get that.
we're going to be going real fast. So this is a handout. Let's just say that in a gonzo fashion, I have a certain vocabulary that seems to recur, so people do know my work pretty much when they see it, no matter when it was done. But I find that I have a certain vocabulary that is, you'll see the starry skies, you'll see sort of an aerial perspective. You'll see animals and plants. You'll see misty things and reflections. Very rarely people, and that's just my vocabulary. Next. I try to stay with uplifting images. I would say also that vocabulary-wise, I do differentiate between what I call pure collage, which is the classic paper glued to paper, that's very extemporaneous and probably at the root of collage. Here's an example of something I did that I think took about 2 minutes, and I just enjoy showing it because I think it's pretty good, but I'm not sure it has any depth to it. It sure wasn't difficult, and I think like a lot of scientists who are shamefacedly thinking up hypotheses after they get their test results. And so I've done work over the years that has gradually led me to realize what I'm doing. Next slide. I prefer to go for difficulty, for mistakes and nuance and various kinds of destruction. Now here's a marginal, well,
Sorry.
that's okay. Just two examples. The next one is a pure collage that I kind of tweaked. It has some white paint and ink on it, but we're getting there to what I'm talking about, but not really. Next slide. Here's more tweaking of what is really a cut and paste collage, but white ink and paint to kind of try to highlight and refine certain things. But I'm heading now, next slide, to what I really believe is important, which is what I call getting a skewed result, going for something that's surprising, going deep, which to me involves things like tearing things apart and then recovering them, deconstructing and reconstructing, amplifying certain things and covering other things, excavation where I'll make layers of things and then rip it off and show parts of what's underneath. Everything that I try to do, I think if it sings, it's because there has been a time lapse. There has been a pause, there's been a waiting time. And the example I like to use when I talk about this is, you start to write a letter and then you have to put it down and you come back to it the next day and your handwriting has changed. That's what I mean by a skew. It's just a little subtle tweak that makes things more interesting. Here's Paul McCartney adding his adding some notes to his lyrics for Eleanor Rigby. You can see that there are places where the black ink where he came back later and added some lines that kind of made the song. But the result is the handwriting's changed. Next slide. Now, going deep, this is really deep because a lot of the collage elements are totally hidden. And in fact, there are so many layers of resin, you can't even see how the piece started. And this piece is early enough that I don't even have good photographs of the process anymore. Next slide. Here's more of an example of a similar work that shows you what I started out with, which was a lot of hand-drawn lines and maps and little notations. And then in the lower left is an area where I had put some dried flowers down, and then after several more layers, pulled some of them off to reveal earlier layers. And then to the right is the final result of what I would call a real deep collage. Next slide. Another example, here's an example of pouring a resin in a frame and then add on top of a collage in the frame, and then adding flourishes like some rhinestones and so forth. This was a fun piece that was kind of a surprise to me. Next. Here's another bit of mischief you can do. Easy layering. It's a paper collage on wood, but then there are about 30 layers of clear resin, and then I finger painted on top of it. I did a bunch of those, and they were fun, you know. And I think some of them have some nuance to them. Next, here's an almost 3D piece. It's got deep layers of resin and paint and collage underneath, but then the dried flowers on top are in relief. Next. Here again, upper right, you see some earlier aspects and some close-ups of the finished piece, which is on the left. And I think you can get a feeling for how deep the layers are, the multiple layers of paint and resin over some drawing underneath, and little collage circles, a lot of which have been covered up later. Next. This is, again, a lot of collage and resin and paint and pencil over a collage that's underneath. And you can kind of see a lot of the drawings and various things underneath. Next. Here's some forensic information. I started out with upper left was an original work that I then photocopied and flipped, glued to wood, and then did another painting on top of that with some collage elements like the central landscape, which I added later. Next. This is just a station break. I've been collecting the graffiti that children have left in old school books over 100 years ago, and they're just so arresting and wonderful. I have hundreds of them, and for a while I was using the originals in my work. Now I'm photocopying everything, but I wanted to show you an example from my wonderful collection because they're just so cool. Next. Here is just early collage when I was still using the originals, which was so stupid. Not doing that anymore. But you know, this is the original children's with painting and collage elements that I added on top. Next. Here again is some of the children's original graffiti that I then just used parts of and added a whole lot of other things in layers and layers and layers and layers with lots of resin. Next. Same thing. layers and layers over some of the children's original graffiti with lots of other things added on top for fun.
Excuse me, would somebody is giving us background noise? Could you please mute yourself?
Next slide. I'm sorry, we do need to go fast. I just need to share this. This is another example of when I was still using the originals, and the text is, the sea is wide, the sea is deep, in your arms I love to sleep. That was from a child from at least 100 years ago, and it's a favorite. Next. More of the original work, just had to share it. I thought these were just so wonderful. And I added a painting on top this time, and very, very little of my own collage elements. Just some paint. Next. Okay, here's where I started photocopying the children's work and then building on it with layers and layers and layers of bits of paint, pencil, and so on to get the kind of resonance that I thought would be interesting. And these are photocopies that I then deconstructed into, I think in this case, they're 3-inch squares. No, they're 4-inch squares. And on canvas, and then embellishments on top. More collage and more drawing. Next. Here's where I was photocopying the children's originals and then deconstructing them into 1-inch squares and then randomly placing them on a grid on a 31 by 31 inch board. And then on top of that, went back and added paint and ink and pencil and pulled some of the marks of for the children left forward, pushed some back, and managed to allow for a little bit of a glow in the middle. Next. Here I was not only deconstructing the photocopies, I did negative photocopies and then built up the surface of 1-inch squares with lots of resin and paint and ink. Next. Here, I think, well, this is probably out of order, but just say, this just shows you what was underneath this finished piece, which ended up being collage and very much also a painting and drawing. It started out with me putting things down and then tearing it off again and again and again. And my journal kind of catalogs that. Next. I don't know where. Here's an example. I started just doing collages, fun collages, and then covering them up. In this case, it was just a matter of continuing to paint on top until I obscured just about everything and then added ink and a little bit of pencil. I don't even know where we are, but let's go on. This is real forensics. This shows you how you can start with a finished collage and then you decide you hate it. So then you start to mess with it. You soak it in water and pull some things off. Then you add paint. Then you add more collage. Then you tear that off. And you keep going with paint and collage. And then voila. On the lower right is the finished product. I don't think anybody can tell how this piece started, but I think it's a good example of the kind of joyful mischief that you can get when you let things take a little time. And in this case, it took 7 months to hate the first one and to end up with what you see on the screen. Next. Another example of doing a collage over a collage that I really destroyed. In fact, this collage I think I did with the idea of destroying it, and it really did. It went through the mill, and this is how it ended up. Next. Another example of a collage done over a collage with so many layers and tearings that I do believe it's really hard to guess how we started, which was upper left and the lower right with all the additions and subtractions and nuances. Next. How are we doing time-wise?
We're fine. Yeah. You
Okay,
can take a
great.
breath.
This is whiplash, folks. Sorry. We're back. We're just looking at some of the original children's graffiti and the negatives that I did. And here's an original collage that next slide we're going to completely obliterate. Next slide. With 1-inch squares of the children's graffiti over the original collage. And gradually building up to the point where the finished piece is on the right, and then lower right is a close-up of the surface where you can see little bits of the original collage still showing through. The fireworks are the way I always can tell which side is up. And this took about 2 months for what it's worth. Next. Just another one. This was fun. I left quite a lot of the original collage. Upper left is the original collage, and then I'm showing you how it gradually got kind of obscured with the squares and the children's graffiti. And to be honest, now that I'm looking at this, I'm not sure this is the finished piece or not. It's close. Next. Here is an example of photocopies, deconstructed photocopies of the children's collage that I didn't make negative. I kept the positives and I just added a lot of color and paint to pull out some of the nuances that the children left. Even 100 years ago, they had colored pencils. So there was color in some of these bits of graffiti. So if you look at the original collage, you can see little bits of it peeking through. This whole thing took about 3 months to do. And I do think that the time lapse makes these a little more interesting and energetic. Next. Here's an example. It's not the children's graffiti. Thank heaven. It's a different series that I did that was influenced more by grids and fabric patterns, and we won't go into that now. But you can see how I added the gridded elements and then over the collage, and then did a lot of work again on the grids to mute them and pull some things out and leave some things behind. And this took months also. I guess I didn't write that down. Next.
Go. Can I ask you a question about that? What techniques do you use to do your muting?
I use a combination of acrylic paint and pencil, and I'm a big fan of transparent mixing white by Liquitex. It's a paint that enables you to white out some things without completely obliterating them. And so sometimes you have to do it 4 or 5 times to get to the point you want, but it keeps you from just whiting something out and then wishing you hadn't later. And it is a much more subtle way of smoothing transitions between the edges of some of the collage elements. So I use it in a lot of different ways. But here, what you see also is a lot of painstaking work of like there's a grid from prior work or from my grandfather's silk designs from textile design school in Zurich 100 years ago. I have a whole collection of those, which is a whole other talk. And I just spend hours just filling in the little squares and kind of pulling everything together. And how do you know when you're finished? That's one of the big questions that we all ask. And then of course,
a couple of questions here. One, a lot of people were asking about what resin you use.
most of the time now I'm sticking with Liquitex mediums, and I really like just the plain old matte and gloss mediums. I will sometimes use gloss and then put matte on top if I don't like it being totally glossy. So that's what I'm doing now. Liquitex has a product called the pourable resins, pourable mediums, matte and gloss. Those are wonderful, but you have to work very fast, especially on something this big. They kind of get goopy too quickly. So you really have to pour a lot of it and very quickly take a feathery brush and pull it all over the piece and make sure that you haven't left any passages, because it does seize up awfully fast. Now, if we move on, I'll show you a few pieces where I've used the pourable, but it's a lot easier if you're working 12 by 12 and under. These 30 by 30 panels are very hard to do that with. So I end up doing 20 or 30 layers of just the regular Liquitex products, which don't dry quite as fast.
Okay, one other question about what transparent white do you use?
It's called transparent mixing white.
Okay,
It's a Liquitex product.
Liquitex, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And I'll post some of this for you after this is finished. We'll post a lot of this online for you so you can.
Wonderful, thank
Okay, next.
Okay,
Are we okay?
we're fine. Don't,
Okay, so here
don't
was
worry.
a further permutation. This is just wild, crazy collage. And interestingly enough, by this time, which was just last year, I was still going back to collages that I'd made 10 years ago for the show at CAA that I never did anything with, and went back, and here's what I'm doing now is these more motion oriented circle collages. So there's some paint, there's some pencil, there are a lot of layers of resin in between applying each of these different circle elements and all the gems and so on. And I could not use Liquitex pourable on this. Again, this is another one of those 31 by 31 pieces. So I would say here we have lapse time of 10 years. I think that's really great. Next.
Oh, just to clarify, Jean, are you using resin in the sense of the mediums as opposed to the stuff where you mix two things together? And
Oh yeah. I'm talking strictly acrylic mediums.
Oh,
These
okay.
are all water soluble. Now I've experimented with other things. That's a whole other discussion, and I'd be glad to talk to people about that. I've even used Varathane, which is a floor sealer, which is great to pour, but I'm always a little concerned about its longevity. So we could have another talk about that, or I can answer questions online.
Plus toxicity.
Well, yeah. So I'm not doing that now, and that was a long time ago. The pieces I did that I still have on hand still look fine, but I'm not doing that. I'm doing the painstaking thing of 20 or 30 layers, which again buys time so that you can get that skew that I like so much. Next. Let's just stick here. This just shows you something I just did a couple months ago, really, although it's on top of a piece that I started a long time ago. It started out on canvas, it's huge, and it was originally a whole bunch of wallpaper from an old house that I was able to get wallpaper and junk from before they tore it down. The house was on the campus of Milligan College near Johnson City, Tennessee, which is where my paternal grandparents went to college. And that's a whole other riff on how we use our personal history and interests that come from ancestry and friends and cousins and life experience. So it started out with that and all kinds of just scrapings and tearings, and ended up with a lot of paint and a lot of collage, and there are dried plants in here, and dried metallic pigment. And if anybody wants some close-ups of this, I'm glad to send it. But I think the real message here is that this is a prime example of total gonzo collage, with apologies to Hunter S. Thompson. This is kind of over the top. It was a lot of fun to do. I've even cut out flowers from fabric and put it on there, along with the dried flowers. Next. This is from that same recent show that I had. This is a smaller companion piece. Now this is relatively quick. I started this about 4 months ago, and I started with recycled bed sheets that I stretched over cradle board to get a sort of underlying pattern, and then built up. If you look on the left from top to bottom, you see all the paint that was applied and divided it into grids, and the upper left, what you see on the bed sheets is all these big pieces of the salvaged wallpaper that I got from the Milligan house that I just sort of slapped on. And then I would add paint, and then I would tear off some of the wallpaper. And later I sometimes even added pieces of what I tore off back on. So if you look at this finished piece in person, you'll see lumps, little bits of, the dried plants and all the rest of it too, but you'll see lumps where there was stuff torn off and then added back on later, which adds to the excitement. Next.
Just a quick question. I don't know if you heard before. Abby Fells was wondering, did you use actual bangle bracelets in that previous piece, or is it all paint? Is there?
Can you go back?
On the previous one, it looked as if you had bracelets on there, bangle bracelets.
Well, thank you. No, I've been going through old geography books and cutting up the globes, the maps that have circles around them, and cutting out all those circles. And I also went through popular media and cut out any circle. My husband's cigar magazines, friends give me all the wonderful, like Town and Country has wonderful jewelry and circles and stuff. So we're talking about vintage publications and current magazines, and the circles are wonderful. And so no, those are all hand cut out, and they have nothing, most of them have nothing to do with bracelets or jewelry. This was a rim around a map of the world from a book that had some old maps in it. And go to Goodwill, go to used bookstores, and I used to be able to go to antique shops and get the old geography books. That was 20 years ago. That is not possible anymore. I'm lucky I have a trunk full of them. They're wonderful because of the lithography in some of those old books is wonderful, and you can get big circles. Should we move on? Next. Well, I guess this is just an example of just totally playing around, and in the lower left are some deconstructed images from the old books, including a little bit of the children's graffiti and pieces of maps, and just playing around. So it kind of doesn't, it kind of fits with the thesis, I guess, but let's move on. This has a whole bunch of layers in it, although I pretty much did it in one sitting. It's just a built-up surface on top of, I think what originally in this case, I started out with some imagery from moonshot images from NASA photos of the sky, which are wonderful. And I used to be able to find them pretty cheaply too. Now everybody's doing it. All the collage artists are using the starry skies, but this piece has the background, and then it has some other imagery from the old geography books. And and some pieces of minerals from a mineral book. And I like the bear there. You can hardly see him, I guess, but he was in an old book of, I don't know, some kind of
Okay.
astrology, probably. Next. I guess this is just another example of a built-up surface with some of the imagery from the old geography books and some jewelry from Town and Country. And again, I just can't emphasize enough how important it is, those layers. Every time I add an element, I add a layer of the clear resin, and then another element and another layer, and then paint and pencil and various other things. I don't know how long this took, but it wasn't done in one sitting. Next. Are we doing okay?
We're doing fine.
Well, this is yet another one that's really just collage over a I think it's over a NASA image, and then some of the imagery is from some of the old geography books that I am cutting up originals if it doesn't have the children's graffiti in it. Although now I've had to start photocopying some of these precious things, like the pictures of miners, which relate to a show I just did, the mining imagery. Now I'm having to photocopy from my collection because I'm running out of originals. Anyway, this is just another example of paint and all kinds of things added on top of one another. Next. I've also been doing what I call the classic collages with just the glue on paper, with the idea of using antique frames that I found. And again, this is something that seems to be happening a lot now, so I'm not as excited as I was about it. But in this case, there was this original print in the frame that was pretty fragile, and I just pretty much just added stuff over it and sealed it all with resin so it wouldn't disintegrate. And here's the label that came on the back of the frame. I salvaged it, but you can see the long path from the picture of the swain serenading the ladies to what happened by the time I finished adding things on top. I don't think there's any element of the original showing except maybe at the bottom left here. I don't know. And this was, I just don't know how important it is to keep saying that I'm always surprised, and that's the pleasure of it. You know, this was not planned, and it just happened higgledy-piggledy and with a little bit of time lapse and sort of letting go. Next. Now this is 3D, and all I will say is that the box had a kind of weird nautical image at the bottom, and I just covered it completely over with paint and some collage elements, and then just started building up. And then I added actual rhinestones and junk jewelry, and in the middle is an antique tin frame with the original print still in it, but I added animals to the bottom, and I guess it's kind of hard to see. There are some grazing animals there. Animals are getting more important. This is a forecast for the future, at least for me. Animals are where it's at now. I'll do a lot of animal things in the future, I think. Next. And this is another attempt at using an antique frame and doing a collage to kind of fit in it. In this case, I just started making a collage. There wasn't really much in the frame to work with, but again, I think here the time lapse is also the frame juxtaposed against what is a pretty contemporary looking collage. If you zoom in on it and look close, it's all contemporary imagery from various magazines. So it may not have taken me more than a week to do the collage, but I think the whole thing has a little zip to it. Next. This is the finale image, folks. I just had to share this. Here is an example of taking old work, cutting it up into half-inch squares and recycling it into a collage that is a grid of detritus from prior work. And on the left is a pile of showing you that I actually did cut things up. And if you look at the image to the left, in the lower right of the image on the left, there's a flower. That is a flower that I ripped off from the surface of a collage to reveal something that was underneath, and I saved the flower. And I took this photo yesterday. Barbara can attest to that, and the flower is still there. So again, these are precious elements that in themselves, some of them are like 20 years old, and I'm just stockpiling it for future use. So next, we're going to give you this handout. It's just a few little references in case any of you are interested. Just for fun. You'll see where I found the Paul McCartney thing and whatnot. I think, is there another one?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Yay!
And let me get you off the screen now so we can all see everybody and keep you spotlighted and get some more
Fabulous.
questions for you.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Using the Liquitex matte medium and gloss medium over and over, I have found in some of my older work where I used a lot of matte medium and gloss medium, it's very hard then to photograph your work because you have a glare. Have you found that?
Well, now I will second that. She's absolutely right. Especially with the gloss medium, there is a glare.
Yeah.
And you know, I try to just angle things a certain way. I always photograph my work in natural light. So if I find the right angle, sometimes I'm okay. With the layering of either kind of medium, I find that sometimes I'll let her show and people think I've sent them a blurred photograph of the work. The truth is the surfaces of some of my work have a bit of a blur to them. And I consider that to be kind of that celestial haze that I think is so important. But yes, we face these little problems when we enter shows, especially when people are standing right up and looking at your work. They can deal with that because you can see the depth.
Yeah.
The photography issue is a real problem. I am still grappling with the whole problem of shooting pictures of work I've done in the antique frames because I keep the antique glass a lot, and then you have the glare problem again. I've gotten to the point with that where I photograph the work before I put it in the frame. Then I photograph the work in the frame without the glass. Then I photograph the work in the glass. But yeah, Barbara, Suzanne, you're right.
If you have smaller, if you have smaller images, which a lot of your work is, I have found that I can scan them in my computer.
Yes.
And then you eliminate glare a lot.
Thank you. And I do that. Yes, you're absolutely right. One more reason to stay with 8x8 and smaller work. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't do that, but scanners are wonderful. I would die to own a scanner that would give me a 20-inch print, wouldn't you? You can go to Kinko's and do that. You can scan larger things at Kinko's for what it's worth. But
okay, we had a question in chat about how you store your reference materials.
how I store like the data, like the stuff.
Do you have a barn?
You know,
Sounds
your
like you have
physical
so much.
cutouts.
I have a flat file of stuff. I have boxes of collage materials by category. I have a whole box of things for night skies, a whole box of things for just plants and animals, a whole box for things like drapery. I love drapery, the photos of drapery in fashion magazines. So it's mostly just in boxes. I do also keep digital files of things that I see on the internet if I think they're good enough that I can print them and use them later. I think it's important to share the one caveat that I do think we all should at least think about, which is that when you use an image out of a magazine, don't use the whole thing, because that's another artist's work too. If I'm using a ball gown, I'm going to use a slice out of it. I'm not going to use the whole ball gown. Jewelry, go ahead.
I have a question about when you use the sparkly jewels and so forth, do you, how do you apply those? And then do you use resin on top of those or not?
Well, I'll cut them out as carefully as I can.
Oh,
And,
I thought, real.
you know, and this
Real
is
things.
talking, the jewels are coming from current magazines.
Oh, okay.
And
Thank you.
luckily, I get gifts from good friends who get these fancy magazines with all these wonderful pictures of jewelry. I cut it out very carefully. I will soak the paper in water long enough to just moisten it. I put acrylic resin on the surface of the piece where I'm going to apply it. I put the wet piece of paper on top of that. I blot it, let it dry a little bit, and then put the more resin on top. That keeps it from buckling and it seals it in completely. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
And I do demos on that. It's kind of hard to just talk about, but you know, there are probably workshops online that do the same thing. Any more questions?
Sean?
Jean, obviously, when these things are taking weeks and months to create, to finish, how many are you working on at the same time?
Probably a couple dozen. I'm ashamed to say. I have so much work here. And you know,
How big is your house?
it's
Like
not.
blowing my mind.
I do have a studio. I do
Okay,
have a studio, a big kind of building
that's
that's
awesome.
behind the house. But folks, you know I'm not alone in this. I have to keep making things, and there aren't enough places to send it. I mean, I know I'm not alone in this, and I'm not going to stop making work. At some point, I'm going to be giving things away, I guess.
Mhm. That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, I've got a studio full of stuff, and I've got plenty underway. I could give you a tour that would just make your teeth clench. So again, I know we're all together in this because we're doing this because we love it.
We should have studio tours, virtual. It would be
Yes,
great.
we used to have live ones.
Yes, we did.
Well, you all are invited here. I have a guest in the bathroom in my studio.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. This has been fantastic and wonderful. I have to look at the video over again just to catch all the wonderful pieces and techniques that you use.
Well, thank you. Also, may I just add, on my website, the entire show that I just did in North Carolina that had to do with the mining imagery is on the website. You didn't see much of it. There's just so much. And then there's another one on the website about the children's graffiti. Pieces from that. If you can stand seeing more. But we'll be posting this talk, right? So people will see the images again if they want to look at them.
Absolutely. Plus the handouts will be on the website. The chat will be on the website. And Jean, anything else, any other links you want to give me to put on the website, I'll put them on.
Okay, I'm happy. Send me an email if you want an image of something, I'll send it. you know, this is a sharing group. So it'll be low res, but I can send you an image to look at. That'll give you a better idea.
Jean, I'm wondering if I could ask you a favor, if you could pose just a little bit so I can get a screenshot of you.
What am I doing? What am I supposed to do?
Just
Smile.
pose and just, yeah, pose and just, and you can do any facial expression you want. Because
Oh,
I
great.
tried, here we go. This is really cool.
I got it too,
Quick,
just
I don't
in
like
case.
You
smiling.
did something with your hair. It's a little, but it maybe it's a little too
No,
witch-like, but
was
it's
cute.
okay. It's kind of fun.
I got a really good shot of that. I'll send it
That's
to
a
you
good
later.
one. That's a good one. Here's a good one. Get it?
Okay, wait, here. No, wait, okay, here. Okay, I'm gonna try that. See
Oh
if
my
she-
gosh. Quaylin, hurry up. There she's got, you missed all the good ones.
I got it.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. I'm working on one. I have to label it and save it. And,
How's this one?
No, the other one's
Are you doing
That's cute.
screenshots with a camera?
no, just screenshots. Because I mean, if it doesn't work, you know, it's the worst that'll happen is I just won't have a good picture of you. I'll do my best.
There's no such
Quaylin,
thing.
I got a few really good ones.
Oh,
I'll send them
excellent.
to you.
Okay. All right. Well,
Quaylin.
My
I'll
husband
now
can
and
tell
not
you there's
and
no
not
such
mess
thing.
around with your head. you know.
Quaylin, I'll send you, I've taken a lot of shots, so you know, I
Okay.
always send you stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you so much, by the way. This was just fun.
well, it was wonderful.
Thank you.
So delightful.
It
And
was great. I learned a lot.
I know.
I think we lost
Thank you,
one of our
thank you.
future speakers. I think Andrea probably had to leave.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
She said she wouldn't be able to stay for the whole thing. But
Yeah, I don't see
I want to
it.
say hi to AP Faust, who is the gallery director at the Callaway Fine Arts Center in Atlanta. He's hosting a collage show for the Atlanta group,
Great.
and he's an
Thanks,
artist
Jean.
himself. And I'm trying to rope him into giving us a talk sometime. So thank you, AP.
Oh, I can't wait. I feel so charged up by your talk. I'm
And Roxanne Holosi was here. Is she still here? She's another Atlanta collage artist who's very well known, who I'm trying to rope in. So
You're doing great, Jean.
Yeah.
but there's just so many of us, you know. I mean, it's just so great, and we're reaching out.
Oh, hi. I'm having technological difficulties. I'm Roxy. Hi, nice to see you guys.
oh,
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Oh, good, good. Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hey,
Right.
we have you, right, for some time in the future.
Yes.
So thanks for being here. This has been great.
Yeah, no, this was great. And I'm not a member yet, but I will. I'll go.
Join up.
I'm gonna join. Yes, absolutely. This has been great.
We need you to post your work, both of you guys, AP and you know, if I've missed somebody, it's
Love
just,
to.
it's kind of hard to see the whole roster here. We have a lot of people here today,
Mhm.
but this is a great group. I just have to say, really, guys,
We're so lucky to have you, Jean.
Well, no, I mean, it's just a good group. And now we're having this show, a live show, and I can ship my work, right? And the Atlanta guys are letting me ship something, which I think is really awesome because I'm here in Knox Patch. There's nothing. I don't think there's one Knoxville artist on here today. Is there? Nope. So,
okie dokie. Well, I think that concludes, does it? Anybody else have any questions for our lovely Jean? And it was fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing it again
wow.
on our video, and looking forward to our next speaker that was here. Is she still? She left.
She had to leave. She said she wouldn't be able to stay.
Very
Hess.
good. Is there
Hess,
any?
whatever.
before we end our meeting, we will say, when we end the meeting, we will be still open for chit chat for if anybody wants to talk and communicate with one another.
Yeah,
But
I'll stay.
question for Jean or for CAA board members, any questions or comments? Well,
It was just great.
yeah,
Thank you.
Nice to see everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lauren.
wonderful. So stick around and chit chat, but meanwhile, I guess we should conclude the official meeting.
Okay, I will stop recording.